Aptitude tests have become one of the most common elements in the hiring process across industries. Whether you are applying for an entry-level role, a graduate program, or even certain managerial positions, employers often use aptitude questions during interviews to evaluate problem-solving abilities, logical thinking, and analytical skills. Unlike technical or behavioral questions that focus on what you already know or have experienced, aptitude questions are designed to reveal how you think. They test potential, not just past achievements. For many candidates, the thought of aptitude questions in an interview creates anxiety. The questions can seem abstract, time-pressured, or tricky at first glance. Yet they are not meant to intimidate. They are tools employers use to measure whether you can process information quickly, make sound decisions, and apply reasoning in new situations. Preparing for aptitude questions requires both practice and understanding of the types of challenges you may encounter. Why employers use aptitude questions? Employers value aptitude questions because they provide a standardized way of assessing candidates. Unlike a resume, which can be subjective, or a conversation, which can be influenced by nerves, aptitude questions give a clearer picture of problem-solving ability. They cut across backgrounds, ensuring that all candidates are tested on their capacity to think logically, work with numbers, and identify patterns. In interviews, aptitude questions can appear in several forms. They might be direct problem-solving exercises presented verbally, written assessments given before or after the interview, or even live problem discussions where you are asked to explain your thought process step by step. Each format has the same purpose: to reveal how you analyze challenges under pressure. Numerical reasoning questions. One of the most common categories of aptitude questions involves numerical reasoning. These questions test your ability to interpret data, work with percentages, ratios, or basic arithmetic, and apply mathematical logic in practical situations. For example, you might be asked to calculate profit margins, estimate percentages from a chart, or compare figures to determine growth trends. Employers use numerical reasoning to see whether you can handle quantitative information, which is important in roles involving finance, operations, analytics, and management. To prepare, candidates often practice mental math, review common formulas, and work through practice tests to build speed and accuracy. Explaining your reasoning out loud during an interview can also demonstrate confidence and clarity. Logical reasoning and pattern recognition. Another core area of aptitude testing is logical reasoning. Here, you may encounter questions involving sequences, shapes, or verbal puzzles where the challenge is to identify a pattern or follow a logical chain of thought. For instance, you might be asked to predict the next figure in a series of shapes or to complete an analogy based on relationships between words. Logical reasoning questions measure abstract thinking, which is essential in problem-solving across all professions. They reveal whether you can analyze information systematically and detect structures in seemingly unrelated data. Candidates who perform well in logical reasoning often show strengths in strategic thinking and creativity, qualities that employers highly value. Verbal reasoning and comprehension. Verbal reasoning aptitude questions test your ability to understand written material, draw conclusions, and evaluate arguments. A typical question might present a short passage followed by statements, and you must decide whether each statement is true, false, or cannot be determined based on the passage. These questions assess critical reading and communication skills, which are important for roles that require report writing, decision-making, or interpreting complex information. Preparing for verbal reasoning often involves practicing reading comprehension exercises, analyzing arguments, and focusing on accuracy rather than assumptions. Candidates must learn to rely only on the information provided, not personal opinion. Situational and problem-solving questions. In many interviews, aptitude-style questions are also presented in situational form. An interviewer might describe a scenario and ask how you would approach it. For example, you are managing a project with limited resources, and the deadline is suddenly moved up. What steps would you take? Although this resembles a behavioral question, its focus is on problem-solving ability rather than past experience. These situational aptitude questions test decision-making, prioritization, and the ability to remain calm under pressure. Employers want to see structured thinking, candidates who can break down a complex problem into steps, evaluate options, and justify their decisions logically. Practicing case studies and puzzles can help sharpen these skills. Time management and accuracy. One of the defining features of aptitude questions is time pressure. Employers often set strict limits to see how candidates perform when the clock is ticking. The challenge is to balance speed with accuracy. Rushing may lead to careless mistakes, while working too slowly may leave many questions unanswered. Preparing for this requires practice with timed exercises. The more familiar you are with the types of questions, the faster and more confident you will become. Developing strategies, such as skipping overly difficult questions and returning to them later, can also improve performance. Interviewers pay close attention to how you manage this balance, as it reflects real workplace pressures. The role of explanation. In many interviews, it is not just about solving the question but also about explaining how you reached your answer. Interviewers are often more interested in your thought process than in whether you get the exact answer correct. For example, if you are solving a numerical puzzle, explaining your steps out loud demonstrates reasoning skills, clarity, and confidence. This is why practicing structured explanations is just as important as practicing calculations or logic puzzles. A candidate who can walk an interviewer through their thinking is often perceived as more capable than one who produces an answer without clarity. Preparing for success. Preparation for aptitude questions is not something to leave until the last moment. Consistent practice is the best approach. Online resources, books, and mock tests can help familiarize you with formats and build confidence. Equally important is developing a calm mindset. Anxiety can cloud thinking, so learning techniques to stay composed, such as deep breathing or focusing on one question at a time, can make a real difference. It also helps to research the company and the role. Some organizations emphasize numerical reasoning, while others prioritize logical or verbal skills. Tailoring your preparation based on the likely focus areas will give you an advantage. Final thoughts. Aptitude questions for interview are not designed to trick you but to reveal how you think and how you approach challenges. They assess potential by testing logical reasoning, numerical ability, verbal comprehension, and problem-solving skills under time pressure. With preparation and practice, these questions become less intimidating and more like opportunities to showcase your abilities. The key is to approach them with confidence, clarity, and structure. Show not only that you can arrive at the correct answer but also that you can explain your reasoning in a calm and logical way. Employers value candidates who think clearly under pressure, adapt quickly, and balance speed with accuracy. In the end, aptitude questions are about more than numbers and logic. They're about demonstrating potential. By preparing thoughtfully and practicing consistently, you can turn these questions into a chance to stand out, leaving interviewers with the impression that you are capable, adaptable, and ready for the challenges of the role ahead.